You are listening to Drop Tent Media Network.
So what's going on? You're tuned in to The Dangerous Truth. Is you and yours truly, your host Dante and D.
Hey.
Today we're going to be talking about relationships. We have a special guest on. She's a relationship coach. We're going to call her a relationship expert, a relationship doctor. And the reason why, first, let me start off with this. This is the pilot episode to the Dangerous Truth podcast, right? And the reason why I started the idea of the Dangerous Truth podcast is because the truth is something that people don't want to talk about, right? Is if you look in the day and time that we live in, people are getting canceled for speaking the truth. It's almost like there's no such thing as freedom of speech anymore, right? And then also we know that living in the United States or growing up in the United States or growing up in the West, that we've been influenced by, and I'm specifically speaking about Nubian Melanites or Africans that live in America, or melanated people. Although this relationship information is relevant to all races, but I can only speak on that which I'm very familiar with. I'll just put it like that. And so I wanted to start this and jumpstart this pilot episodes by bringing in somebody that could speak on the male female dynamic in relationships. Now, with that being said, I brought my co-host D. We started this together, and the reason why I brought her is because she has the ability to keep me in check and keep me very authentic when I'm saying stupid shit. So, that's the reason why I wanted to bring her on as a permanent co-host to run the show with me. And let me ask you this: when's the last time you've been in a relationship? When last time you been in a relationship?
Oh my God. It's probably been about a year. An actual relationship has been like a year. I've dibbled and dabbled since then, but nothing.
What does that mean? Dibbled and dabbled? Like,
I've been doing me.
what that mean?
I messed around with some people.
Okay, all right, that's real. Now, why'd your? I want to bring her in like ASAP, but why did your last relationship end?
Two different people, two different personalities, two different upbringings on life, and maturity levels. We're both 22, but I see things differently as a mom now. Whereas he's still got some growing to do, and I respect it. I understand it. So I just let him go and grow, and I'm gonna go and do me.
Okay. Now, any regrets?
No, none.
No regrets. Okay.
That was a toxic relationship.
All right, so we're gonna start there. We're gonna start there with the toxic relationship. Can you bring her in for me? We good? All right, so we have our guests here. We have Miss Elizabeth Overstreet. She is a relationship expert, coach, and author, by the way. Am I correct?
You are correct. Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you this, right? Because we're in the world of YouTube and everybody's applying titles to themselves, right? So let's just start off with what qualifies you as a relationship coach? Like why should our audience, what makes you a coach or expert in that what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that there is a lot of noise out here about relationships. I've really built up a lot of credibility. I've been featured on ABC, NBC, Fox News, ESPN.
Talk heavy.
New York Times. I can tell you more and more and more. But the bottom line is a lot of people have sought out my relationship advice because a lot of people are out here giving people a lot of fluffy theories. But I really think there's practical tools that do work to a relationship. And I always joke that I'm a relationship strategist because I think relationships require intention and focus, and you really need to be thinking about it because it affects so many facets of your life. And just personally, I've been married before. So I've been dated as a single person. I've been married, then I've been divorced, dated as a single parent, and now I'm remarried. So I've been through my own journey as well. And I've been lucky enough to be part of a family where there's multi-decade generational relationships. So my parents were married almost 60 years, my grandparents 60 years, aunts and uncles 40 plus years. So I gained a lot of organic knowledge around what works and what doesn't work in relationships. So I'm bringing all of those tools to people.
Oh, wow.
You want to go? You want me to start?
Yeah.
So
That was nice, though.
No, that is very nice. So I think you got to experience something and could say something that most of us can't say, right? Like you said, you got to experience your grandparents together for a certain a long period of time, and your parents
And my parents and aunts and uncles.
and aunts and uncles, right? So,
So when people got married, they stayed married. And look, that doesn't mean because people stay married that it's working, right? I mean, there's a lot that comes with that, but you are going to learn and see healthy and unhealthy situations and dynamics. You're going to observe like what's effective in the way people communicate and treat one another. You're going to observe what doesn't work because people are imperfect, right? But I just think watching those things, I was just fortunate to see that I call it like love legacy, like, you know, just that legacy that the family was building around love and relationships, and how there are just certain things that just work. There are certain tenets that work to, you know, with the relationship, and we gotten really far away from that. And I think that's why there's a struggle going on now.
Okay, so let's go old school, new school, right? So what do you think is the difference between what you seen your grandparents doing and your mom and dad doing versus what you see people like Dee doing at the age of 22 and in the you know, I'm putting her I'm frying her this episode.
Putting Dee on blast.
Yeah, I'm putting her on blast this episode. You know, as far as like what do you think is like the difference as far as like how people are going about things?
Yeah, things are different 50, 60 years ago. People needed each other, especially within people of color, you know, within their communities. They couldn't make it on their own. Women had limited opportunities in their career. So there was like this dependence of like, you have to work together. And I think some of that was good for our relationships. And then now you're at a point where there's a lot of things that have happened to us historically. We don't talk about it. There's a lot of trauma that we have in our bloodlines, in our generation, and our, you know, generationally and in our family lines that's affecting our relationships today. Some of that was dealt with because people had to kind of like bear it out, right? But now things have shifted. Women have a lot of more autonomy. They have more opportunities to have their own careers, their own endeavors. And now men have to kind of navigate that differently, right? Because it's different. And then there's just a disconnect because now you have had a lot of cycles of families breaking up, you know, and not being together. So people don't even know what it looks like to see a man and woman together. And sometimes what they're seeing isn't healthy. So those same cycles continue to affect their relationships.
Okay.
Damn.
Okay. So let's go here with it, right? A person starts dating right there, you know, let's go back to Dee's situation, right?
It's gonna be all D tonight. We're gonna get on Dante.
Yeah. We go, no, because I'll definitely want to use this opportunity to be vulnerable, right? And even go into some of my own personal stuff to see where, you know, maybe I'm being egotistical or maybe not egotistical or whatever the case may be, right? So when two people are starting off, right, we hear this concept that people should be friends first, right? What does being friends first look like for you, right? Let me add some context around this. The reason why I ask is because we hear this a lot, right? It's almost like, oh, we need to, you know, date and be friends first, right? But then what happens is that we're friends, but we know that what initially brought us together was attraction, right? But we say, okay, we're gonna be friends and let things happen naturally because, you know, I want to date my whole best friend shit, all that good shit that we like to say, right? So then we're 2 months into the friendship, and then you get a text message, and I realize it's a boy, and I get my feelings, or vice versa. That's how it usually happens. And then it's just like the friendship's already tainted because it's just like you really like this person, and although you want to be friends first, you kind of still don't want them just doing them, especially as the friendship progresses, right? So what does like a real friendship look like when you guys are both interested, obviously, and then you know, like what does that look like? And then I want you to tell me where she's on point and where she's off at.
Well, to me, I don't know how to explain this. I don't know. So being a friend first, to me, you got to get to know somebody. You can't just jump in a boat with somebody. I'm guilty of it. I've done it before, but I've seen how that has never worked because couple months in, I'm like, this is not the person I thought I was dating, you know?
Right.
So you really have to take your time to know somebody. And even when you think you know somebody, you really don't. You could be living with them and you still think you might know them. And then you find out later situations show who people really are, you know? So honestly, I don't really agree with the whole being friends first thing. I don't know how to explain it. Really just take your time. Just take your time to get to know somebody.
How about you, Elizabeth? What you think? Like is that cliche? The be friends first thing, is that like very realistic, or is that something we just we like to just say that?
So Dee said something pretty interesting, and I'm going to use my parents as an example. So they were the ones married almost 60 years. And one of the things my mother said to me after they had been married 50 years was like, there's still things I don't know about your dad. I'm still learning him. So it's really interesting to me. I was like, but you've been with this man like 50 plus years at this point. She said, yeah, but people change, people evolve. So I think, Dee, you are right. Like, I think what we take for granted is that we date and we think we know someone, or we're friends with someone and we think we know them, but that takes time. And that's called like that discovery phase. So that could take some years. And the reason I think people get frustrated is because a lot of times they're still in the infancy stages, kind of like a baby of their relationship. And you're right. In 2 years, you really don't know someone. In 5 years, you really may not know a lot about them. You'll know more, but it's really a progressive thing. As far as, is it cliche to be friends? I think that you should want a relationship where there is a friendship, because you're going to need something foundationally when things go wrong in your relationship. And if there's not a friendship or a connection there, I'm not saying it has to happen at the onset. That can happen as the relationship develops. I think that that's going to be a tricky relationship. It's going to be difficult, because there's going to be that initial phase where you're like, oh, I'm feeling this person. And that's called when you're releasing your endorphin, the endorphins are being released, the oxytocin. There's literally a brain science of things that's happening that causes you to connect to someone. And I think where a lot of couples struggle is when that wears off. When that honeymoon phase wears off and there's a power struggle or there's a challenge, then it's like you look at this person, you're like, am I into this person? Did I pick the right person? And that's because now you're really getting to know them and you're getting to figure out, can you guys actually compromise, work together, resolve through difficulties? So I think there's other indications outside of friendship to look at. I think it's important to look at, like, can you guys, when you're having a difficult conversation about something that's hard, how do you manage that? I think that's actually more of a telltale sign of relationship success than friendship initially.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think as the relationship goes on, that the friendship piece is important, because you're going to get older, things are going to change, the physical attraction is going to wear off at times, the relationship's going to go like up and down. And if you don't have anything to stabilize that, if you don't have interest in common, if you're not complementary, that relationship is not going to last. That's just my opinion, my 2 cents.
Go ahead, Dee.
I kind of want to jump the gun for a little bit.
Go ahead, jump it.
So I got a friend. She's my age. And she's been dealing with somebody who's 20 years older than her. And I thought it was funny how you said your area right now, if you would gravitate to, is 20-year-olds and 40-year-olds.
Her geographic.
Yeah, geographic. Thank you. So, I guess with their situation, because me and her talk every day, they met at a bar. Things was cool. She sees him when he wants her to see him. And to me, that's a red flag. But she's busy and he's busy. So their schedules really don't work together. I believe she said he's not affectionate. And his excuse for being non-affectionate is because his mom never showed him affection. He wasn't allowed to cry in front of his mom, something of that nature. Like the way his mom brought him up to be so tough and not to show love. So as a 40-something-year-old man, he struggles showing love to her, and she shows love to him. So I guess like what I'm asking you is, can a 20-something-year-old actually work a relationship out with somebody who's twice her age? Like, is that even possible?
I think that's a great question. I think sometimes there are people that are more old souls. They gravitate towards people who are older.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on life experiences more than age sometimes. So I don't think there's a hard core yes or no. But what I will tell you, based on what you're telling me about that relationship, there are things that would concern me as well. So the fact that he is kind of controlling that relationship could be why he's gravitating to someone's younger. Like he wants it to be on his with his rules, right? The affection thing is interesting. He's sharing that. That's probably some trauma there. There's probably something that's rooted in. He's talked about it a little bit, but there could be something deeper there. So it sounds like he has some challenges, which could be why he's a 40-something plus man hanging out with a 20-something-year-old. And conversely, on the other side, for the 20-year-old seeking out the 40-year-old, oftentimes what I see is sometimes women look for that stability. They look for that father figure. And he could be saying and doing things that feel very good to her because she's looking for those things. And if I go back to her background, there could be some gaps in her not having those things.
Right.
So showing up and giving her some of those things, such as the stability, such as like the reassurance on some level, and she didn't get that with her primary father or whoever was her primary caretaker, that could be pulling her that direction too. But I think over time, what happens, and I'll just add this, and I'll shut up.
No, go ahead.
As people get older, you see these relationships break apart, right? So sometimes you'll see a guy or a woman with someone 10 years older, younger than them or more, and at first it seems fine. But then what happens is that younger person evolves. They have more experiences. They start coming into their own. And that's when you see the relationship shift. Now, if the relationship lasts, that means maybe they were compatible, they were able to get through it. But what I've seen in my, from my experience of coaching people is often it breaks apart. Because they may have captured them at a certain point in their life where they really needed that particular thing. But once they were able to overcome that thing, that person couldn't serve them the same way. So they become unsatisfied with that relationship.
I will say this. I don't know how that dynamic works as far as him doubling her age, right? But I am of the mindset and the belief that I do think that a woman should date probably 4 to 6 years older than her, right? For the relationship to really balance out. And it's not that one that is the fact that we do know that women are more mature, right? And they grow at a lot faster rate. And I'm speaking about women in their right state of mind. We're not talking about city girls or nothing like that, right? That's a whole nother conversation, right? But I think because they look for a man to lead and they want that submissiveness, like with you dating somebody that's the same age as you, 22, it's just like, it's not that you couldn't be submissive to him, but it's just like when he goes to put you in check, it's like, nigga, we had Mr. Smith class together. Like, you used to cheat off my test. Like, now you putting me in check. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes like, because I've dated my age and then I've dated older women than me, and I think that's going to be an imbalance because she's always going to be like a mom to you in a certain degree, or stuck in her ways, or feel like you can't really leave her. She's older than you. And then, like I said, when you guys are the same age, it's just like y'all was in the same grade together. Maybe you seen him in the hallway in 10th grade, or you know what I'm saying? You seen him cry when he lost his championship football game. Who knows, right? So I do feel like that 4 to 6 year gap, it makes sense as far as the balance, as far as like if both people are in their right state of mind on their shit. I feel like the male should be a little bit older. You agree or?
I agree. I think sometimes, women are maturing faster than men, right? And so sometimes that is why they want someone older. There's two things I'll throw at you also. Sometimes because of the nature of like even sex and intimacy, it's different if you jump up age. And there's a reason for that, because not to be too explicit, porn was a lot different before, back in the day, than it is now. It was a storyline. There was consent. Now you can have everything. So porn has really like reshaped the way people have sex, how they enter intimacy, how they mature around sexual intimacy. So some women have even said that they like dating older men because they feel like the sexual experience is different. Some of that is because the guy has experience, but I think some of it is because they haven't been like exposed sometimes to the porn of today versus the porn of yesterday. So I think that also adds a different dynamic. Dee, you also said something earlier that I really liked. You said, look, as a mom, I'm looking at people differently. I have a child. There's a statistic that supports this. It's a company called Bed Bible. And they did statistics about relationships. And they said that single women are 10% more likely to find love out of everyone else. They couldn't really figure out like the rationale for it, except to say that single women are screening people out more. They're more so like looking at it like, okay, can this person fit in my and my child's life? Is this person going to bring something extra? So I just thought it was interesting. You even said it. You're like, I'm looking at the future. Something about once a child comes into play, a woman shifts. If she's a mature, I'm gonna say if she's a mature single mom.
Yeah.
Let's put that caveat out there because but she's a mature single mom and she wants something different for her kids. She's totally looking at her partners and her partner choices differently.
All right, so I got a question for you. I think that I'm about to ask you a question maybe you've never been asked before. Let's see what I got.
I love those kind of questions.
So I think trauma is something we spoke about earlier, right? And my thinking is like if I meet a sister and I'm about to get into a relationship or we're interested in each other, right? The first thing that I'm going to acknowledge is like, yo, me and you both broken from the rip. Like you got some shit that happened to you when you was growing up, whether it was with your mom and your dad, your brother, the weird uncle, whether it was the breakup, the maybe you having a baby, maybe you experiencing some postpartum, maybe you wasn't there when the baby was born, whatever. I got my mommy issues, whatever the case may be. And it's a known fact that I think that we're like at an all-time mental health crisis, right? In this generation, and we use what we try to do is we try to use alcohol, drugs, whatever to numb ourselves to our reality. But the thing is, it's basically like with that being the known fact that I don't even have to know nothing about her. She don't have to really know nothing about me. But if we decide to engage, right? If we decide to engage in a relationship, right? We without us knowing anything, we know that it's a lot of healing that has to take place for us to really make it in the long run. Where does the person start? Like, do you feel like my question is, do you feel like if a person is serious about getting into a relationship, should they both start off with therapy together?
Yes. I think that it's easier to solve problems when they're smaller than when they're bigger. And I think the reason a lot of therapy fails is because couples wait too long until the resentment has built up and it's been building up and building up for years. And I think it's almost like getting over a hill. If it's a tiny hill, you're like, I could get over that hill. But if that hill gets bigger and bigger, it becomes more and more difficult to get over it. It's not that you can't, it's just so much baggage and emotional history there. So you made Dante, you called out something really important that I see with the demographics of people I work with. Like I work with a lot of people, like I said, that 25 to 44, but like a lot of 25 to 34. And the thing they talk about a lot with me is they want to do things better. They don't want to experience what their parents experience or their grandparents experience. They don't want to be in a relationship where they have to compromise their value system of who they are. They want to acknowledge like their blind spots. And, because we all have these blind spots of things that we do that we often don't even know we're doing until we're in a relationship. Because when you're in a relationship, someone is holding that mirror up, right? Like, no, you're not good at communicating. No, you're not good at handling conflict. And so I think it's super important for people to have these conversations earlier, because if you don't have, I just posted about this recently, emotional vulnerability. If you don't feel comfortable that you can bear all to this person that you're in this relationship with, you're never going to have good communication. It's going to be very difficult because the vulnerability is about the trust, but it's also about reconciling the things that you've been through. So when it comes to just the whole healing piece of it, it's not that you're going to meet someone that's totally healed because they've been to therapy or they've done these things. You just want to meet someone who's willing to like go through the process, who's willing to do the work, or who has put in the work and who has awareness. That's what I think helps the relationship to thrive.
Right, which means that people who think that's cheesy or corny, that's a big red flag right there.
That's a problem. Yeah. And I bet you if you ask them questions, you'll get more red flags about who they are. And this is the thing. Everyone has red flags. All of us. All of us. Like everyone has an imperfection or a flaw when it comes.
All right, so give me 2 of yours since everybody got red flags.
I'm impatient. Okay. And sometimes when there's difficulty and I feel like I can't reach like a solution with my spouse, it's very easy for me to withdraw.
All right. What's your red flag of your own, your 2 toxic ways?
I want my way all the time.
Oh,
unrealistic. Go ahead.
I'm being real, right?
No, I
dangerous truth. And I too shut down really easily, and I make it hard for somebody to, I guess, show affection after I reach the point where I'm like pissed off. Like, I don't know. I have bad communication.
All
I
right.
do.
So look, that's where I get it at, right? Do you feel like you want a man that's a leader?
Absolutely.
So then you don't want your way all the time then.
Elaborate.
I want to hear Dante's red flags first.
Oh my,
Oh
yeah. I tried to, you see how I tried to deflect?
I like how you did
I
that.
tried to deflect.
You're good. You're good.
My red flags. What's my red flags?
Say them so I could nail you to the cross. Go ahead.
I think my red flag is I don't know how to make women comfortable with my influence and charisma around women.
Mm.
And I think that maybe a lot of times I come off flirtatious, or the conversation may come off flirtatious. And I think and it must sound like an arrogant prick, but it's okay. I really think that because when they meet people like me and they compare me to maybe the other conversations that they're having with people that are 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and just in that bracket, I think it's just almost like, oh shit, like you're different. Like I don't really have these type of like conversations. And so, like for example, right, I'm out of a relationship right now, right? But I'm kind of like in that make up to break up. But right now I'm just, we really like letting it just rock, right? But when it came to like me connecting with D to even put this together, like if I was in a relationship, this would have been an argument, right? Like, and so I always tell people, like, I didn't make it to 29 with no record, hanging out with a whole bunch of dudes. Like, I really believe in the power of feminine energy.
Yeah.
And I think females take that as a red flag because it sounds like the finesse, like, no, nigga, you just want to hit something, right? But no, I really do believe in the power of feminine energy, because even with me and her having a platonic relationship, right? It doesn't mean that when she gets dolled up or she is spitting gems, or even with me talking to you, that it doesn't give me a certain level of motivation, or like, damn, like I got this dope ass female, she could keep me in check. Elizabeth, she over here dropping gems. Like that shit is like so like what I'm attracted to, just in general. And I think that I don't know how to articulate or explain that without it sounding like, like I got different intentions outside of what I just spoke.
You just did. Like, so you were asking me earlier, what do I think is different between like the generations that stayed together and now? Women were really good at their feminine energy. They probably had to hone it because they didn't have as much like independence and power to do certain things. But those men were still coming home. They were still loving on them. I think there's so much power. You said it. There's so much power in a woman who is carrying that energy. And I think that energy is more just being in the moment. And men just eat that up. And I think what's happened is because women have had to take on roles of being the breadwinner, the person going out there doing things. They haven't had maybe that support of a man, is they have more masculine energy, because that's the energy you need to get stuff done. But I think there's a balance in the relationship of learning when to use your feminine energy versus your masculine energy. And that's the tough part.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let me
Wait, did you say your second red flag, or was that the first? Did I miss it?
I said like two.
Oh, okay.
I said,
I'm just making sure you saying you doing your part.
He said the
all right, no.
flirtatious thing, like that sometimes women may because of his charisma, that women may not be able to read, like they may misread that if he's in a room. This is what I'm understanding. Tell me if I'm wrong. That if he's in a room, it's like he's getting this attention and he's like, oh shoot, like he kind of knows it's going to happen, but he needs to be better at figuring out how to put the other person at ease. I thought that was
that's exactly, because listen, if I go into a room, I don't care what men or females in there, like I'm going to control that room. It's just it's
called presence. You have presence.
Yeah, I have presence. And I think it comes from me being a state agent and this, professional bodyguard stuff and the martial arts. So maybe that has something to do with it. But listen.
But I think you are.
Can you handle that though? Could you handle your man?
Yeah, I could handle that. I would be like, that's my man.
How about
I know
you?
that's right.
I walk up and be like, that's him. I know.
Could you really handle it? Because it's just like y'all want somebody that's, that guy until y'all got that guy, and then y'all be like getting insecure and shit.
I'm glad you asked me that because it really depends on the situation. Like you could tell when your man is flirting, and you could tell when your man is just being himself. You get what I'm saying?
So define flirting.
What?
What's flirting?
You know what flirting is.
No, I don't. What's flirting? Is flirting harmless?
Okay,
Is
so
it
everybody
harmless?
has their own definition of flirting. Flirting's not harmless, but I do think it's disrespectful if you're doing it in front of your partner. Absolutely, 100%. But if you're just being yourself, like you said you are, you're not flirting, right?
But it doesn't mean that you might take it that way though. You might it might still occur to you that I'm flirting. It occurs to me that I'm being myself.
I guess it's all about knowing your partner.
Yeah, that's true.
I think what she's saying is like some men, they can know they have that charisma and they almost get so like into it that they lose sight of the woman that's by their side. And then there's some men that can receive that energy, but they're like, this is my woman. And it's very clear that that woman, she's right here. So I think it's more so like how you handle it. But I would also say when you have to like dumb down or like play down who you are for someone, it's problematic in a relationship. If someone that doesn't have enough like security in themselves, you can't make someone feel secure. They have to feel that. So
all right, so let's go here. Right? You catch your significant other in something. Does that still make you now solely responsible for their security or insecurity?
okay, I think there's so much more to this question you're asking. So I'm gonna break it down the best way I can.
Go ahead.
Trust
Listen,
trust
don't let
is
me off the hook.
I'm not gonna let you off the hook. You know me.
All right.
Look, trust is like, okay, so the example I use is like if someone has a china glass and it breaks and they put it back together. And say the only people that really know where it broke is the people that were in the room. But the thing is, they still know there's that piece, right? So even though it's back together, still at the foundation of that relationship, people may think about that one part that's defective of that china bowl, right? That they put back together. Because it's something about once you destroy trust, you have to rebuild. It's just not the same relationship. Can you rebuild? Yes. This is my other thing. If you're with someone and you have rebuilt the trust, you've done the things they wanted because you have to do it because you broke the trust. That's just part of how it happens. But if time passes and they don't forgive you, it's not going to work because they're holding on to it. They haven't let it go. At a certain point, they have to let it go. To answer your other question about is it your responsibility for someone's insecurity? No. But more deeply, Dante, I would be curious, what is it in you that keeps attracting someone that constantly may have that issue? Because I'm really big on people being aware of like how they bring that energy to them and how they bring that person into their life. Because I always, whenever someone breaks up in a relationship, when I'm dealing with someone on the end of a relationship, they can clearly articulate to me right when that relationship, they saw things they didn't like and they just kept going and going and going. So I would really like want to know from your perspective and your dating history, like, when you're dating these women, like what do they have in common? Because I'm guessing there's a pattern. And then why is it that you're attracted to these women? And then like when these things happen with the insecurity, like you've made them feel secure and they're still insecure, what makes you continue to stay? And that part I think would give me more insight into like why this pattern kind of keeps happening. Because it sounds like this is a pattern that's happened maybe more than once. That's a whole nother part of that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you, right? I think that in the beginning, I wasn't initially honest as far as like my relationship, like what I wanted in a relationship. Like I really don't think I'm a monogamous male, right? I really don't think a lot of look, for real. No, look, no, for real. I don't
You're
think
doing
I'm
so good, dude. It was like you're doing so good.
yeah. Well, now look, I don't think I'm a monogamous male, but I don't say that as in I just want to mess with a whole bunch of females just wildly. I mean, like when I speak about polygyny or a polygynous relationship, I really mean like still another relationship with boundaries. It's just with more than one woman. Because I really don't feel like, and you could, go in on this, Elizabeth, and then, before we get back to
Please go in on it.
I really don't feel like men are naturally monogamous. I really feel like it's something that was introduced to the West. I think that even when you bring in Christianity, God's right-hand mans, they all had wives. We go into Islam, we already know that polygyny is a thing in there. When you bring in that the fact that women are born at a higher rate than men, black on black crime, incarceration rate, homosexuality agenda, if monogamy was like a thing, I really feel like it would almost be like hitting the lottery. Somebody's with all those numbers that I just gave, somebody's man's getting took. It's just that simple. And then on top of all those numbers, we're not even taking into the fact of the men that are not just knuckleheads. Like they could really articulate themselves. They're the entrepreneur. They have an honest job. They have some type of higher power or something that's bigger than themselves, that when they meet you, we could say, hey, when all shit hits the fan, we could use this as a guidance for us to bring us back center. So men don't even have that. So when you take that into account, it really, it's like, damn, how much, where's the quality of men at? And do women really think that she's going to get this one man? You're going to meet this one man at 24 and he might be blessed to live to 74, and he's only going to experience you as a feminine energy for the rest of his life on this planet Earth. I think that's very selfish and very arrogant to think something like that.
So is that just? So can your woman have multiple men? Like you plan on having multiple? I get what you're saying.
If we were in a relationship,
can she have the same rights that you're looking for?
If we were in a relationship that was considered like a polyamorous relationship where the man's dating the woman's dating, then that would be that type of arrangement. So I said a polygynous relationship where it'll be a male dealing with two females. If she wanted to be like, oh, well, can I do this or do that? Then I would respect her being upfront, but she would have to find that particular situation for somebody that would want that particular situation. But what do you think about everything I just said? Because she tried to, so can the woman do that?
Because this is what's interesting. Like,
do you agree with anything I just said? Like, damn, that's a good point.
I think you're young right now. So right now it can feel like I want to screw the world, right? And I think I think when you're young, that could be normal because your sex drive, you're at the peak of your sex drive. I think there's some history we need to go to. Look at how we've been indoctrinated into this country.
Right.
Through slavery. And what happened through slavery? Men, even when they tried to marry or have families, had sex. They wanted them to reproduce more slaves. So some of that's ingrained and generational. Okay. Number two. Number three, there's different levels of maturity that people have in relationships. And this is why relationships fall down. There's 5. There's sexual maturity, which you focused on. There's physical maturity, financial security, maturity, spiritual maturity, and emotional maturity. And this is the thing with sex, people, don't realize, like, in the moment, it seems great. Like you're just hooking up with this person, but you are also hooking up and exchanging. You're exchanging. It's a physical exchange, literally. Okay. Without me being graphic. And there's a spiritual exchange happening. Yeah. So oftentimes people are hooking up with people and they're like, no, it's casual. It's no big deal. And then the next moment they're like, I don't know why I feel this energy. I don't know why.
You take on the DNA of everyone you have unprotected sex with.
Right. So as much as I get what you're saying from a physicality point, like I'm not this prude that's like, oh, you don't,
but I'm not even speaking just from a physicality point. I think that's where people actually have the misconception that, because if I was speaking from a physicality point, I don't need to have a relationship construct called polygyny and for what? I just be single and deal with this sister, have a situationship here and a situationship here and a situationship here.
Let's not avoid this topic in a way. Like, we talk about sex very casually. I know it's like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, I can screw this person and I leave. But what happens when people have sex? It's harder for them to leave. They keep coming back to that person. They keep repeating patterns. They take on characteristics of that person. So
it's a fact.
It's a fact. So I hear what you're saying. I do think there's a strong influence around all of the things you talked about. And I think it's an excuse almost. Like, I get it. And I get that people have drive. I get that. But this is the sexual maturity. The more you increase your body count, we talk about it with women. Guys don't want a woman that's been passed around.
She's an internal being, though. She's an internal being, and it's definitely different.
But as men, if men want to truly lead their women, like they say they do, and they truly want to be the king has to have some responsibility. He has to have some discipline. A king can't have discipline if he has a ton. And I know where you're going to go with that, Dante. I see your face. But if you look at kings that rule well,
But you're only speaking about the physicality part. You're not speaking about that. If I have if it's me, her, and another sister, and maybe she's a stay-at-home mom, or if I make 7,000, she makes 7,000, she makes six
So let's
thousand a
be
month.
realistic.
As
Let's
far
say,
as like the family
yeah.
building aspect of it, like
Well,
there is a cultural aspect to it, a family aspect to it. We're just kind of
absolutely.
like speaking on like the horny aspects to
Let's
it.
talk about
Of go ahead.
Nick. Let's talk about Nick Cannon. He has
Please.
the financial wherewithal to take care of all the kids he's bringing in the world. You don't hear any of the babies' mothers complaining about that. But realistically, can he be there for all those kids?
No.
And when those kids grow up, do you think they're going to care about just money?
No.
What do you think is going to be the legacy of those kids? How do you think they're going to enter relationships?
I couldn't tell you that. That would be me just like reaching.
Well, I'm going to show you by example. When we look at
Go ahead.
people that come out of those types of scenarios, dysfunctionality is what happens. It's hard for someone if they don't have some kind of construct or understanding, even when they have a construct of a healthy relationship. It's hard for them to be in a relationship. Now, when you add all these other dynamics, I mean, I get it. So, because some people are like, look, I like an open relationship. I like polygamy. Hey, I need more choices. It makes it easy.
But when you say it like that, and then you compare it to monogamy, it gives the narrative that I'm comparing monogamy to a person that's undisciplined and that wants to indulge in a free
Well,
flow.
I'm speaking from experience. So like I'm the old person here. And like I'm the person that wasn't
Go ahead,
smart.
OG. Go ahead,
Hold
OG.
on. I'm the person that wasn't smart sometimes about who I chose and who I engaged in having interactions with. And I paid for that. So I'm living proof. I'm speaking from my own truth of like making decisions, sometimes connecting with people and being like, it created havoc in my life, literally.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you can't, but what it does is we're just human. It's human nature. Like even I have, male clients, female clients I coach, and some of the things I hear from male clients and female clients who sleep with a lot of people. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not here to be the judgment police, but what I hear their challenges are is like the more people you engage with, it's like, okay, I want this. Okay, I want this. Well, this person had this. It gets more complicated. It feels good in the moment, but in the long term, it's if you do at some point say, Dante, like 15 years later, you're like, okay, I'm 44 now. I want to settle down. It's complicated a little bit because it's like you have all these people you've been with, you had all these experiences, and they're shaping you. Each experience is shaping you. Each one's rubbing off on you. And it's like, so when you're going to choose, you're like, dang,
Yeah,
they don't have this one thing, So
I think it's different for me because with the polygyny thing, I'm not speaking on it or from a theory. Like I think most people will be against it because they've never really seen it in real time. Like I've actually like spent like years with people who were like with a brother, like where it's him, his 3 wives, and all the kids, and we're all in New York and Brooklyn. Like, you feel me? And I seen how they work together. I seen how the one wife, she was in control of the graphic designs for the flyers. The other sister, she was in control of the food. The other sister, she was more like the alpha, not home wife. So she would be out in the field with him, promoting and doing speaking engagements like that. And I seen them go from literally work together and go from Brooklyn to Beverly Hills, working together, all in the name of them not getting into this. I don't want to share my man. It's just like they're more thinking like,
I don't know.
how can we short circuit this financial freedom thing, or short circuit building or a nation building, which is needed within, like I said, the Black community. And I just think that, like I said, why is it, if you ask, I'm a male, so I talk to other males, married, unmarried. Why is it that every male has this sense that whether they have the platform to be honest with the women or not, why do they have this urge that they just feel like they would want to deal with another sister? And I don't mean just in an undisciplined free for all way. I don't feel like females have that natural urge. I feel like, yeah, there are females that are very, very horny, and then they're just saying, hey, I'm gonna be promiscuous, right? But I think females naturally do want to just like love that king that's going to lead. I feel like that's a natural feeling for them. With us, I don't really feel like that's a natural feeling for us. And of course, maybe indoctrination will have something to do with it, but indoctrination will also have something to do with you feeling like I possess this person. You feel what I'm saying? So
I would like to challenge you on a few things.
go
I
ahead.
think that as far as polygamy, if people decide to make that decision and it works for them, great. But I just think about
Just the nature of men and women. I'm not even speaking about polygyny. It's just
right.
men
But
feeling
you
naturally this way and women feeling naturally that way.
But what you're saying, like I coach women and men. So really women and men think a lot more alike than what you would ever think. So I think women have the same urges as men sometimes to cheat. They have the same, women cheat as much as
Is that
men.
true? Is that true?
Don't look at me.
Statistically, it is
That's
true.
crazy.
Who are men cheating with? Think about that. Of women. When it comes to relationships ending, men are actually only 20% of the time cheat. Women actually have a higher sometimes cheating rate than men.
That's crazy. Yeah, out of pocket.
Yeah, that's another statistic. The other thing is when a relationship is ending, women are more likely to initiate the end of that relationship.
I definitely got broken up.
I try to keep it fair. The only thing I say about polygamy, why I get what you're saying. Like there are some people it does work for, but I just look at how difficult sometimes it is for two people to be in a relationship. Now you're adding other people. So with more people come more complexity, right? It doesn't mean it can't be managed through. But I just think the rules of engagement are like, is it really the man and woman that want to do it? Or is it just the man? Or is it just the woman? It needs to be both parties engaged in the process. Because sometimes what you find out is people are influenced into it. So they do it to appease their partner. But if you're going into a polygamous relationship and you're like, yeah, this is what I want, this works for me. Because again, if polygamy is happening, that kind of goes against your thing that only men have that urge. That means women do too. They feel some benefits from sharing or some benefits from having an open relationship. So that's where I go back to. I think
it could be a financial benefit though. It doesn't have to be physical. It could be spiritual. It could be completely selfish.
It could be a lot of things. Yeah, it could be a lot of things. But I don't think men and women are as apart in thinking and cheating and desiring certain things as men and women think they are. Because I know we hear a lot of it like one way or the other, which drives me crazy. But when I sit and talk to men and women, they really fundamentally want similar things. They want respect. They want loyalty on some level. They want someone who can show up for them emotionally. They want good physical, chemistry as far as, the sexual intimacy piece. They want stability. So it's like a lot of the things men and women want are very similar.
Go ahead, D, take it away.
I'm actually going to shift away from this whole polygamy thing.
She's like,
I do have some questions though. What do you think about couples checking each other's phones?
Ooh, what's crazy? I was just about to say that. Checking each other's phones, sharing locations. Is that a deal breaker or not a deal breaker?
I think it's a balance to that. I feel like if you feel like you're constantly having to check on someone, you don't have trust. And if you don't have trust, that's going to rub at your relationship. Now, if the trust has been broken, then there might be a reason to share locations or to build that trust up. But I think it depends on the couple. Each couple's different. Like some couples are like, here's my code in case of emergency. So you have all access to my information, which means to me, they're like, look, there's nothing here on this phone. And there's so much that can be done on a phone now that's just much more complicated than before. Like people can cheat in 1,001 ways. So I really think the couple has to have their rules, but it really it depends, it just depends on what those two people are comfortable with. Do I think that you have to do it? Nope. I think it depends on the couple. Some couples may want that transparency and need that. And then some couples might be like, no, that's my life. And you have to trust it until you see, or there's a reason, you're giving when the trust shouldn't be there.
You going through your significant other phone?
No, I did with my last relationship, and phones was getting thrown at people when they were asleep.
Now, listen. Do you feel like? Do you really agree to that statement that if you go looking for something, like if you find something, like it's really your fault, not my fault, like you shouldn't go looking?
No, I don't agree with that because I shouldn't find anything. That's where the whole trust comes in play.
You know what that is though? When a woman goes to look, I'm just speaking from a woman's perspective. When a woman really goes to look, now there's some women that are insecure about phones because maybe they've been in situations where they got burned. The guy wasn't honest, and vice versa. It goes both ways. But women have strong intuition, and men often try to make women second guess that. And if we hate it, it's just a gift we have. I think women need to own that. When you feel stuff isn't right, a lot of times it's not. And sometimes that woman is going to dig in that moment because she's looking for confirmation. Like confirmation, should I stay? Should I go? Am I being crazy? And oftentimes the more someone's telling you, no, you're crazy, this isn't right. Eventually things start trickling in information. So
I feel
I
like
think
that puts the relationship at risk though, because if I know you went through my phone and then I
I'm
know
not
that
saying you should do it. I'm saying why
yeah,
it happens. I'm saying why
okay,
it happens. Yeah.
right. Because it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
things don't go through my phone, because I feel
But
like we share, and you're in a
But you're
relationship.
talking like you always got something to hide.
No, I don't.
you
I'm not.
did
Because
sound a
if you
little
don't
like
got, yeah,
No,
if you
but
don't have nothing to hide, what is the problem?
we already share money. We share the bed. We share the house. We share the crib. The phone is the one thing that's mine. That's one.
But didn't you
And then
get
two,
caught
y'all
doing
go
something in your
then.
phone?
And then two, yeah, I did. Hold on, chill.
Okay.
But it's besides the point. What I'm saying is,
it's about that accountability. Go ahead.
no. Listen, what I'm saying is though too is just that like y'all. What if there's like a personal conversation with just like me and a friend? I don't know my friend. Y'all know. He lost his big toe or something. That's his personal business. But you snooping around and y'all just don't go through like y'all go through everything, like everything.
Full cleanup.
Full clean out. Yeah. So it's just like to me, I feel like that's like it's pure
I feel
violation.
like
I'm going through your spams and your email.
Yeah, it's
I
pure
feel like
violation.
there's a line, and I think that is disrespectful to like just go through someone's stuff. But I think it happens because there's like a lack of trust. But I think if you need to pause in that moment when you're getting ready to go through someone's stuff and think, if I feel like I have to do this, there's something deeper here. And you need to have a conversation with your partner, boyfriend, whatever, as opposed to going that route. I think it's a habit that needs to be broken, because I do know people, and I've coached people where they did that repeatedly, and it does mess them up, because like sometimes I do think you could be like joking with a friend or something, and someone could read that and totally misinterpret what it means, and it doesn't mean anything. And you could be building this whole story in your head. So go to the person and talk to them. If they're not honest, this is my thing too. It will eventually be revealed. Time is always a revealer of people's intentions and their actions and their behavior. So people can't hide things forever. It always comes out.
See, my thing about that though, everything that happens in the dark comes to life. True. But I'm not about to wait 6 years to find out you've been cheating on me with the next door neighbor.
People cannot hide who they are that long. Think about dating. When does it, I mean, I'm going to ask you guys straight on, when you date someone, how long does it typically take for you to figure out something about them that's off?
Nah,
What's
not
your
long.
gauge?
Nah, not long at all. It's just it's just. I think that we're a habitual for ignoring the red flags
Yeah. I
or
think
ignoring
that
things that I'm saying.
most of the time people, I mean, if they're really good, okay, maybe. But most of the time, things are going to be revealed with the 3-month marker. There's going to be some indication, 6-month marker. And I get that people are like, I want to know now, but that's part of the problem too, because like it just takes time to get to know someone, and you can't rush that process. We see that people rush that process, they skip over, and the problem comes back on the back end. So rather to take your time and see what something is versus to be deeper in it, have children with them, be married to them, be in it, you know what I'm saying, for a long time, and then it comes out. I rather I rather people kind of be in that beginning phase and be like, okay, I'm watching, like I'm aware. I mean, that's the beauty of building self-awareness. You become more attuned to yourself, which is why I was asking Dante earlier, like if you're sensing you attract a certain type, that's you. There's something here that's pulling it. Of course, the insecure person would want a secure person. Think about it. Of course, they would want that person that gets attention, because they're not getting that.
Right.
But can you be with someone similar to you? That's secure. That's confident. What would that feel like? But sometimes there's that whole thing you said, Dante, like there's that dominant passive thing, and some people like to dominate, and be that person. So it's recognizing again, like who you are and why you keep repeating that same pattern, why you keep bringing that person in your life. It means something is unresolved. Because I think we date the same people sometimes, but they just have different names and different faces.
All right, so dangerous truth time, right? So because we got like a good 5 to 7, maybe 10 minutes left. Because I want to hold. We've been flowing, so and I know how we could just.
Yeah, we can go forever.
Yeah, so I want to be respectful of your time. So I feel like I like to speak. I like to. This is where I'm at with just all my relationships, right? Getting down to the juiciness, like the uncomfortable conversations that we were speaking about earlier. I think it's interesting that people could be like have sex with each other and be naked and then not speak from the heart. Like
it's easy. They're two different things. Yeah.
Like and so my whole thing is this: what's an uncomfortable conversation that you avoided with your husband initially that you eventually had to have, but you knew that when you brought it up, like shit was gonna get uncomfortable. Like maybe egos might have got hurt, or it was just one of those things where it's just like I gotta kind of plan this conversation. You know how you gotta plan the conversation, get the wine ready. You know what I'm saying?
So, like, when you get married, I think one of the challenges is like understanding like who you're with, and because you think you know, but you're still learning, and you really learn once you're married. So, I think learning how to navigate blending families was like, challenging. It was different. Like, I had to
Like get your badass kids.
well, no, his kids aren't bad, so I don't. His kids aren't bad, but no, it was more like kind of tuning your like discipline styles, how you approach things, and it's very interesting. Like I hadn't been in a blended family with my family, I had older half sisters, but they were older, so they didn't grow up with us. But I didn't have those same experiences. But he had a really great experience of having a blended family. So, like, it is a line though. Like when you're disciplining a kid, like it's funny how it becomes very territorial when it's a serious matter with a kid. It's like, it's my kid, right? Biological kid. So I had to navigate those conversations. Look, I think we've had a lot of conversations of being married where it's not comfortable. And sometimes we fail. I fail. Like when I step out of my shoes as a relationship coach, I'm a person too, just like you guys. And I have to kind of like be up there like, Elizabeth, what would you tell your clients to do? And my husband calls me out on that too. Would you tell your clients to react that way? So I'm human too. Sometimes I handle it well, sometimes I don't. But I think when you're dealing with difficult topics, one way I found that helps is even saying it like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about something that I know is a touchy topic, or I'm going to talk to you about something that's a truth for me. And, it's hard because you're being vulnerable. You're like, is this person going to exploit it later? There's that risk, right? Are they going to hear me? And I think it's kind of positioning it that way. And then I think it's also having rules of engagement. So it doesn't always work. Like we have disagreements where it doesn't always go great, but we do try to have disagreements or rules around how we handle our disagreements. So if we see things escalating, we're like, okay, we may need to go to our corners of the house or go take a walk or leave and then come back to it. We may need to just let it sit for a night, because I think in a relationship, people have this urge to like solve things quickly.
Right.
I'm impatient. I want a solution like right now. And sometimes you're with someone that's a processor that has to think about it.
So how this is another one. How do you agree to disagree? Like, and
So
I want to, and what I mean by that is just like, hey, you got a problem with me coming in at the house at 2 a.m. I'm like, one, I'm grown. The club don't close to 2 a.m. You know how it is when you leaving the club drunk. You want to go get some Crown Fried. You know everybody bidding in the car. You know we got to roll the L up. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if I get home at 3, that's just what comes with going out. No, that makes you feel uncomfortable. And I say, I understand. It makes you feel uncomfortable. I respect it. But you just won't get your way when it comes to this. Right?
I don't think that's so. I don't think you come in it that way. I think you say,
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Give me some
about
tips.
how like you tell someone, okay, I'm not, what they're hearing is like, oh, you don't care about how I feel. You don't respect that I need you. I want you to be here. I think you lean into, hey, I know you want me to be here at this time. What's going on? What are you worried about? You approach it differently. And then you're like, how do I make you feel comfortable so that I'm okay? And when I might be out late, what does that look like? Do I need to text you? Do you want me to call you? It's all in how you frame it. You see how one sounds more like I care about like why you care about this, because maybe they had some traumatic situation where someone was out late and something bad happened. So in their mind, anytime you're out past this time, they're going back to that memory. I'm going to an extreme. You never know what triggers people, but I think it's important to understand why they may feel away. Like, what is it? What are you feeling? And it's about dealing with that thing they're feeling, and then you get what you want too.
Hey, D.
You're serving both sides.
What's up, Tay?
What's up? So let me ask you a question.
Please don't.
Can your man have female friends?
Can I have male friends?
Come on, this is not.
No, that's literally how I would approach the situation.
That means you play the relationship tomato. I'm not going to be myself. I'm going to be. I want to do whatever you could do.
Not necessarily, because the relationship I was just in that I ended, I couldn't have no male friends. Family friends, as if they were male, they were always a threat to him.
All right.
So,
but okay, that was his perspective. I'm asking you about your perspective on the male having female friends. Yeah, I guess
it is a tit for tat, because if I can't talk to Scott from down the street, you can't talk to Heather.
But just with just all things just being balanced. you just meet a guy and he asks you like, hey, you know, how you feel about a male having female friends? What's your perspective? Like,
I mean, I don't know. I'm not really insecure in that way. I just feel like as long as you're respectful, she's respectful. I've really never really had a problem with it. I have got burned sometimes thinking some females are friends and then finding out. But I try not to hold what I experienced in the past to the new person I'm dealing with. I give everybody a chance. I think everybody deserves a chance. Yeah. What you think?
What you think? Listen.
Look,
Listen. If your husband come in and he said, "Hold on, babe, Michelle calling," and he go take that call,
You take the call right here. What do you mean?
Yeah, no, he take the call.
Oh,
he
right
take
then
the
and there,
call,
yeah.
and then he say something like, "Yeah, salad work. You know, that's cool. Tomorrow, 12 p.m. All right. You know, like
Oh,
how
yeah,
you feel?
Elizabeth, I need you to come.
How you feel? Like how you feel? How you feeling? I'm ready to ask the producer.
you should ask the producer. I would like to hear what he's got to say. I know
Hey, can wifey listen? Can wifey have a male friend? Like not to even get like crazy, right? But can a detective or a sergeant, you know, because she works in law enforcement, right? Can he take her out and say,
don't say that stuff right now, dude.
all right, we'll cut that part out.
No, it's all good.
We'll cut that part out. But I'm just saying, we'll cut that part out. But I'm just saying, like, she's gonna go work out. You know, she's gonna, you know, she has a male friend.
They're gonna go to the gun range.
Yeah, going to the gun range. He about to help her with her shots. How you feel about that? That's crazy.
Yeah, I would. Actually, I know. I think Dante thinks I'm married. I'm not married, just to be clear.
Oh, you're not married?
No,
okay.
no. She's not my wife. Actually, we're separating. So I'm actually a lot of what you guys talked about here, especially Elizabeth over there, just ringing some truths for little old me over here. No, but I actually was never. Speaking from my perspective, I was never intimidated by any male friends. Actually, she had a lot of them. I got where they were coming from, just because they were a lot older guys. She never had like a father figure or anything like that, and the guys were like much older. And I just always saw them as like, yeah, that makes sense. Like you needed people to lean on. There was never any, at least from my perspective, anything I thought was nearly sexual about it. So it was just like, oh yeah, these are old dudes that like some of them were like teachers that we still hung out with later. That they were just like, oh yeah, this teacher helped me through a really rough time when I was growing up, like that kind of stuff. I never had a problem with it. That's my thing, though.
All right, Mr. Producer, talk your shit.
Go ahead. How you feel, Liz? You got a problem with?
I think it's fine. Look, it's like a crayon box. I think the challenge in relationships a lot of times is we look to our partner to be everything. And that's why relationships fail. Your partner can't be everything. I think having relationships outside of it, as long as they are healthy and respectful of your partner, are fine. So friendships are fine. I think the line is the friendship should never come before your relationship. If you're with someone and you're in a committed relationship, they should be here. The friends are over here. They're not on the same level. If you want that relationship to truly thrive, if you're saying, okay, I want to build a future with this person, I want to be with this person, I want to eventually marry this person, and then it needs to be respectful. So like, it shouldn't the relationship or friendship, I should say, shouldn't make your person that you're in the relationship with feel uncomfortable. If there's something they're feeling, typically there's something there. Sometimes it may not be said or unsaid, because women and men, we intuitively sense things. We can sense when it's just a straight up friendship. We can sense when someone's manipulating the friendship and has more interest and they're trying to play that friendship. And I think you do need to tune in and ask those questions if it's bothersome to your partner. So I think it's all in how you approach the friendship, but I think at the same time the relationship should take precedence. It should be prioritized over the friendship.
All right, I'm about to take this somewhere else again. How do you feel about you in a relationship with a guy, right? And you know there's this female, you know, I guess she knows you guys are in a relationship. You find out he cheated on you with this girl. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about women confronting the other woman as opposed to them really holding their man accountable? Because that's like
I'm just coming to you as a real woman.
That's like a real debate. Like some people feel like you shouldn't say anything to the woman who knows. The woman who, my thing is, if you don't know, then you don't know. I have nothing to say to you. But if you know, like, bitch, if you knew, everybody's getting the smoke. Mom, dad, kids, whoever. That's just how I feel. And maybe that's a part of maturity that I lack. I don't mind saying that.
No, that's fine,
but
right.
I feel like if you knew, you should be held accountable just like him. Come get this ass whooping.
So remember how we talked about those 5 pillars of maturity, and one of them is maturity? Right. And none of us are fully developed on all of them. We lack, right? And sometimes that's why when we are attracted to someone that looks good on paper, like, oh man, they got together, they got their money
You
together,
crazy as hell, girl.
da, da, da. We're like, oh, this is a fit, right?
Mhm.
They lack that emotional maturity, just what you're talking about. And they're coming and fighting you over a man, like that's a gap, right, in their maturity. So this is what I would say. I wish women and men would stop fighting over people that are not fighting for them. Why are you wasting your energy on that? Like, number one. Number two, they are clearly showing kind of where their heart lies. So I think it's really interesting that women, I'm just going to use women in this example, will get into it with other women and fight over a man that's sleeping with both of them. Because he's doing it to both of you guys, and you're fighting each other. And guess who's still getting access to both women? The man.
Right. Right.
So, like, I think that, you could confront someone, but
There's really no point.
confront both parties, because
Yeah.
both parties are guilty, and sometimes one party may not know the other party's in a relationship. That happens too.
Mhm.
So I just think that's that emotional maturity piece. But my bigger piece is like, why are you like fighting for somebody that's like not respecting you?
Right.
So look, let me. So I'm gonna.
You gonna go back to polygamy?
No. We don't. We done with that. Before, I'm gonna probably just ask you one more question, but I do want before, and I want you to get one more question if you do have it, and
right,
and you could be as brief as you want, or as long as you want. But where can like we get your services at? Like really like give us the socials from your social media accounts to the book, to booking you for consultations, workshops you might have going on, anything of that nature.
Yeah, so I just actually finished doing a workshop in Chicago with the Idle McCarthy Foundation. So I love working. They really focus on helping people with their mental health. So I facilitated a discussion around relationships with a group of women. But I'm always open to doing those type of things. But if people want to learn more about the work I do or how they can book a service with me, they can go to elizabethoverstreet.com. And then as far as social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok under Elizabeth Overstreet as well. So if you are looking for, questions around relationships, I have a ton of content out there. And then I also wrote a book, which people can find on Amazon.com, called Love You and He Will Too. And guys have read this book too, by the way, and I'm actually revamping it so it's more gender neutral. But the point is, my philosophy again is I believe that we got to deal with ourselves first, because that's the only person you truly have control over. And that's what sets the foundation up for you to have healthy relationships. So if you really want to have a good, healthy, rewarding relationships, because I think some people are tired of doing it over and over again. Some people might want polygamy, if that's your thing. But even in a polygamous relationship, people want it to be healthy and rewarding, right? None of us want to go through these situations where we just keep repeating the same hurts over and over, because that leads to a lot of bitterness and anger. So I help people get there. And I'm also, I'm an author and I'm a speaker. I also speak at company events and things like that. So that's about.
Oh, okay. So
Mhm.
listen, one, I don't want you all to think that I can't be monogamous, right?
I don't know. You kind of said you don't want
I
to
was
be.
about to say, been there, thought that.
I can be monogamous. It's just I just don't know
Book
if
a
that's
session with
I
me.
don't know if that's the relationship structure for me. But this is the thing though, and I'm not going to get on this topic. But for you to be in that type of situation, you have to be successful at a monogamous relationship for you to be successful at a
Exactly.
polygamous relationship.
Exactly.
So I definitely agree with you when you say it's not that I disagree, but it's already hard doing monogamy. Adding someone else might make things 10 times more complicated. So I understand that. So with that being said, you were talking.
That was a rap song, but go ahead.
So you were talking about like your book title is can you say it for me again?
It's Love You and He Will Too.
Too. So I want you to really go into like that self-love and not waiting for a circumstance to be a certain way. Like what's your perspective on?
Yeah, I
like,
mean, there's
that?
nothing more attractive than a happy person. A happy, healthy person is the like biggest sexual and physical turn on. People want to be with people where they feel like, man, they seem pretty content with themselves. What's going on? What do they have? I want some of that. And I think we know when someone's thirsty. We know the thirst trap, right? We know when someone's like I don't know, they got like they're up and down. They have all these mix of emotions. We know when they're insecure. All of those things, a lot of times, if we're looking for a healthy relationship or we have that within ourselves established, that healthy relationship, we don't want to be with that. So I think that once you figure out like how to be content with yourself, once you figure out, okay, these are my relationship or dating blind spots, it just changes things because you have self-awareness. So then when you're dating, it's not that you won't meet people that are trifling. It doesn't mean that, but you'll have more awareness to be like, I've been down this road. I've been with the person who's insecure, who I'm gonna have to keep going through the same thing with them. I'm not going to take myself down there because you know what you want. You know who you are. You know what value you bring. You recognize where your weaknesses are. So I think that's when I say self-love, it's loving yourself, but it's also self-accountability. So it's recognizing where you have certain patterns or traumas or issues that you need to work on to make yourself more holistic. And that's a continuous project because we always change as we get older. Different things happen to us that shift us and change who we are. So, but I think without the self-love piece, that's why you have a lot of people, a lot of half people coming together. That doesn't make a whole person. You need more whole people coming together.
Mm. All right. Well, I just got two small questions. You don't have to go crazy on elaboration, but
Yeah, and then we're going to end it.
yeah.
But I'm still going to make sure I get your social medias and all that one more time.
Okay.
So, do you agree that when you're sexually unattracted to a person, that the relationship is just over because there's no way to get that sexual attraction back?
So tell me more about what you mean. Like, is this someone you've been intimate with? And
Yeah, you've been intimate with, but situations have caused them to turn you off. And now it's just like, I don't even want you touching me. Then when you let them touch you, it's like, why are you touching me? It's like, but that's not how it was. Like, you were just so into it. And then situations happened over a time where it's just like, I don't even sexually.
I think what we underestimate with sex is that like what creates good sex is trust and it's emotional safety and respect, right? And then once that emotional safety isn't there as much, that's when like it's hard for people to have sex with someone. Like it just doesn't feel the same. Or if they have been disrespected by them repeatedly, it shifts the relationship because sex is a very emotional act. So I don't know if you could rebuild that. I mean, I think you can if you really are like committed to it and you go get help with it. I think, but I don't know. I think sometimes it just depends on how much damage has been done. I mean, sometimes you can come back from things with relationships, and sometimes people just can't get past that hurdle.
I agree. Now, my second question was financials, because I see a lot of couples argue over financials. So most people, when they get married or whatever the case may be, is they join their accounts together. Do you think a man and a woman has a right to have their own separate account where they're not telling their significant other, like telling them every single money, not really necessarily trying to hide, but where they have their own personal thing, like maybe they want to do something for themselves or do something for their significant other they don't want them to know about, but then your significant other seeing mail come in like TD Bank, but we got Wells Fargo, so what the hell is going on here?
Right.
I think it depends on like the stage you are in the relationship. So like if you're younger and you're building together, some people are going to probably put more things together. But I think it's always good for people to have something separate, honestly. I think there should be disclosure around it as far as like, hey, there's an account here, and maybe you still put that person on as a beneficiary or a joint account holder. I think that's fair if you're in a committed relationship with someone. But I think there's power definitely in bringing money together because you're building. And when couples do that, just statistically, they tend to stay more united and they tend to actually grow because I think they're seeing the impact of each other's influence together. But I do think it's okay to have separate accounts too, but it depends on the couple because sometimes like you get older, you get remarried, you have children, you may want to protect your children's interests, right? And sometimes there's nightmares about people like joining everything and then they pass or something, prematurely, and then that their children don't get their their inheritance or something like that. So it just really depends on your dynamics with your kids and all of that. And then it just depends on who you're with. But do I think there should always be transparency around the finances? Yes. Like it shouldn't be a situation where someone has all the control and you don't even know if things are getting paid. Like you don't know what's
Right.
coming in. I think that if you're in a relationship, like this is not a dating relationship, I'm saying a committed relationship where you are either married or you're going to be with this person, there needs to be some discussion around, the financial piece.
Oh, well,
Okay.
that's it
Well,
for me.
Elizabeth, I really want to say, I'm very, very thankful for you. I'm not sure if you know, but when I first started, like just the whole interview thing, like 2, 3 years ago, like she was like my first guest.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
And she's the first guest for the Dangerous Truth, so I wanted to bring her back as the first guest. And I thank you for your humility, because like I said, you're a person that's been on ESPN, NBC, like all these, like TV networks, like, and I'm just like a person on Instagram that just DMs you like, yeah, your content's dope. Can I get an interview? And like, and you're, and you always respond, and you show support. So I really, really do appreciate it. And honestly, I could really tell the growth in you over the years, just articulation wise, like shit, maybe because I was a little bit more challenging this time, and you wasn't no pushover at all intellectually. Definitely very sharp. So this could be off the record, the second what I'm about to say now, but I do want to bring you back on probably like 60, 90, like probably the new year, when me and D, we get our chemistry like even more intact, and we figure out what we want to do for the show.
Yeah, because
and
I don't
live
know him
streaming.
at all.
Don't pay
I
her
know
no
she's
mind.
being sarcastic. I think
but this is our first time doing this together in this new, like I said before, I was just doing Instagram Live. Now I'm in studio and everything. So next time I bring you on, I want to bring you on for like a Patreon type episode. I want to compensate you up front. I want to give you some type of like deposit or just some bread, just because like your time is valuable, and you do this for a living, so I want to be mindful of that. And then even you're in North Carolina.
I am.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so even if we was like, I'm not sure if you're in road trip mode, we will come out there and interview you, or even if we were able to like really create something where we flew you out to Philadelphia for like a real, like just something like real solid.
Philly. I used to go to Philly all the time. I'm a Chicago native, so but I lived in North Carolina the last 6 years. But I am disappointed. Gym steaks got burned down. I don't understand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time in Philly. You guys have some of the best food.
Yeah. And so I just want to let you know, I'm gonna set that up. I want to set that up for the future. And anytime you're in Philly, just let me know, because I'm a armed agent and professional bodyguard, so I want to make sure you're secure out here. Being still, Philadelphia is the second most dangerous city in the United States of America. So
Yeah, I'm from Chicago, so I feel you, man.
Chicago #1. So we
Of
right
course
behind
they
you.
are. And I think that it was promoted quite a lot during the last presidency, remember? Trump
Right.
talks about it like all the time. But no, thank you for having me on, Dante. Like, you have a special place in my heart too. I see a lot of growth in you. And I was happy. I was elated when I saw you reached out. I was like, oh, he's still out there doing his thing. And I see some of your posts and things like that. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate you looking out as well.
Listen, and if I be hitting you up for a consultation, listen, don't be surprised.
See me, Dante. I want to talk about this polygamy thing.
Okay. Well, that's what this episode is going to be called: the death of polygamy.
Oh God.
All right, thank you, sis. I really, really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much. It was nice to meet
so nice
you.
to meet you, Dee, and welcome to you as well. And
Thank you.
you guys will do great. I love how you keep pinging each other. This is good. I think this is going to build something fun.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.